This drama begins with a man standing in front of a building, about to see his dream come true. His dream is rather unusual, to destroy the building and revel in watching it crumble to ashes. No, he's not some kind of maniac. There is a very specific reason why he wants to do this. Vincenzo is a man of Korean origin who lives in Italy as a member of the strongest Mafia family. He is the family's lawyer who knows how to launder money and keep the Mafia legally safe. Vincenzo has been adopted by an Italian Mafia boss named Fabio Cassano, who has recently died. Vincenzo carries out his father's last wish and visits a man from another Mafia family. The man is quite arrogant because he believes the Cassano family is not going to hurt him now that Fabio is dead. However, Vincenzo explains to him that his father's last wish was for them to reach a settlement, so that's why he's here today. The man doesn't want to talk to him, so Vincenzo gets up and leaves. At that moment, a plane flies above the man's mansion and sprays everybody with some kind of liquid. The man comments that they sprayed their field last week, but this is all Vincenzo's plan. As it appears, this liquid is gasoline. Vincenzo lights a lighter and throws it on the ground, causing the place to torch. Then Vincenzo goes to see his dead father's body before the funeral takes place. There, Fabio's biological son, Paolo, makes some fuss because he is jealous of Vincenzo. He is angry because his father trusted Vincenzo more and gave all of the important missions to him. That night, Paolo sends 3 men to stop Vincenzo, but the experienced lawyer outsmarts them and defeats them first. Then he calls Paolo while the latter drives into his mansion. As they talk on the phone, Paolo's supercar explodes. Vincenzo warns him to leave him alone, or else he will end up dead. He proclaims that he is going to leave Italy and asks Paolo not to search for him if he wants to stay alive. As Vincenzo flies to Korea, he can't help but think of a secret room that is filled with plates of gold. But that's not just any room in any building. In the meantime, a woman named Cha Young attends court to fight a legal battle in favor of a company named Babel. Some people are suing Babel because the medicine they have in circulation had several side effects on them. What's even more interesting is that Cha Young is fighting this legal battle against her own father, Hong Yu-chan, who is the lawyer of the people suing the company. Soon, Vincenzo arrives in Korea and grabs a taxi. The driver offers him some water, but the bottle is spiked, and Vincenzo is put to sleep. When he wakes up, he is tied to the car, and he sees the driver with his accomplice. The 2 men rob him and then knock him out. When he wakes up again, Vincenzo has nothing left. Luckily, he sees some money on the ground, and it appears to be enough to buy a bus ticket. Soon, Vincenzo arrives in Seoul and stands in front of the building he dreams of demolishing. A flashback shows us that a Chinese businessman, who was also a criminal, had reached out to him in order to ask him where he could hide some golden plates. He had some ideas, but didn't want to hide them in China. Vincenzo had a connection in Korea, his assistant, Mr. Cho, and came up with a plan. He bought a building, chose a name, and built a special room under the building. There, the Chinese businessman hid his gold. But the room with the gold also serves as a trap. If somebody learns about the underground room and tries to break into it, the building will crumble and become their grave. The Chinese businessman liked the plan and went along with it. Today, the businessman is dead, and his gold is left alone under the building. Vincenzo knows that he can steal the gold and become a rich man. When he meets with Mr. Cho, he is informed that several tenants are living in the building, and many of its spaces are used for various purposes. Vincenzo is not worried about that, as he believes he can find a way to get the tenants to live someplace else for a little while, maybe by promising them to renovate their spaces for free. But the next morning, a representative from Babel appears and tells them that the company wants to buy this building and use it. Not only that, but the man also makes them a generous offer. Vincenzo refuses the offer, and the man is surprised because the money is good. That night, Babel decides to take more severe measures, and a few armed men break into Mr. Cho's house because he is the legal owner of the building. They threaten to kill his family, and Mr. Cho is forced to sign the contract selling the building to Babel. The next day, Mr. Cho is driving his car when he calls Vincenzo to inform him about what happened. Suddenly, a truck hits him in an attempt to kill him. At the same time, a few thugs sent by Babel visit the building to warn the tenants that they have 7 days to leave. The tenants disagree with them, and things get heated really quickly. Cha Young and her father get involved, and the thugs give them a taste of their brutal strength. But then Vincenzo appears and puts some order. After hitting one of the thugs, he also hits their leader and makes him hang outside the window. He warns the man to leave, but the leader of the thugs orders his men to attack Vincenzo as soon as he's back on his feet. However, a few policemen appear and put an end to this confrontation. After this incident, Vincenzo has a talk with Hong Yu-chan, and they realize that they can become possible allies since both of them have common interests, which means Babel is their enemy. Later, Vincenzo visits Mr. Cho in the hospital and asks him if they are the only ones who know about the gold in the building. Mr. Cho declares that they are the only ones, but it doesn't really matter because if Babel renovates the building in order to use it, they will find out about the gold. A flashback shows us that the Mafia had taken good care of the secret room and the people who worked on building it. Those people, and the ones who transferred the gold, were killed by another team later on. Vincenzo then goes back to Hong Yu-chan again and asks him to work together in order to stop Babel from evicting the tenants before their legal deadline. Vincenzo's plan is to buy enough time so he can demolish the building and seize the gold. Cha-young hangs around her father's office and invites Vincenzo to dinner because they are all work and no fun. During the dinner, she reveals that she works for a law firm named Wu Sang, and Babel is their client. In the meantime, Jang Han-seo, the president of Babel, meets with a secret figure playing hockey on ice. The man in the hockey costume throws some hockey discs at the president in order to hurt him. Han-seo apologizes for his poor performance, but the man is not taking any of that. He starts beating him up using the hockey stick. Elsewhere, Cha-young attends a Wu Sang meeting, and she starts feeling a bit weird working for them because they are probably bad people. In turn, a man named Jang Jun-woo, pretending to be an intern, overhears the boss speaking on the phone and tells Cha-young the same thing because he gives Babel the green light to get the tenants out. But that's not the only thing about to happen. Babel wants to move straight on and demolish the building in order to renovate it before using it as a lab. Vincenzo has to come up with a plan fast. So, Vincenzo asks the tenants to work hard and prepare something like a small festival. When the thugs arrive near the building with the bulldozers, they see people partying and having fun. The thugs could try to ruin this party, but maybe that is not a good idea because Vincenzo has invited the Italian ambassador in Korea to attend the festivities. When the police see the thugs, they know that Babel sends these men, but they plead with them to go because they will have to get involved if anything goes down tonight. Over the next couple of days, Vincenzo studies Korean law as he tries to find a way to extend the period of grace for the tenants. Keeping the tenants in the building will stall Babel from demolishing the building and finding the gold. Surprisingly, Hong Yu-chan receives a phone call from one of the scientists who used to work for Babel's medicine development team. In fact, he was the head of research for a specific drug known to cause side effects. The man explains to Yu-chan that many of Babel's drugs cause side effects, but the one he was working on was something else.
But that's not all. Babel is trying to develop drugs with both meanings of the word. They want people to get addicted to their medicine just like junkies. The scientist decided to flee because he believes Babel will not allow him to live after the incidents he has witnessed. Yu-chan wants him to testify in court, but the man asks if the lawyer can guarantee his safety. Unfortunately, the lawyer only tells him that he will do whatever he can, which is not good enough for the scientist. Later, Yu-chan receives a phone call from a woman he has represented in court in the past, Ms. O. The woman was injured in jail, but she is fine now. Vincenzo follows him to see the woman, and he gets an unsettling emotion when he sees her, even though the woman seems not to recognize him. That night, Vincenzo meets with Babel's rep and asks him to give him 2 months before Babel makes moves to renovate the building. The man is not willing to accept his proposal, but Vincenzo has his mafia ways of convincing people. As it appears, he has been gathering clues on the man and has some pictures of him with his secret girlfriend. The rep finds himself in a tight spot, so Vincenzo tells him that he has to make a decision soon. The time is pressing even more for him, as the thugs are getting ready to demolish the building after they force the tenants out. The rep gives them a call and asks them to stop. While Vincenzo has won a battle, Babel makes another move, and an assassin causes an explosion in a hotel where some research team members are staying. The next morning, Yu-chan learns about the incident from the news, and he assumes that the company is silencing the doctors who worked on the development of one of their drugs. He rushes to the crime scene and sees the police wrapping up the case way too fast. Yu-chan scolds them and tries to force them to follow the procedure, but Vincenzo tries to calm him down when he sees 2 men staring down at them. With his experience as a former mafia member, he knows that they will become the next targets of these assassins if they continue causing mayhem here. In the meantime, one of the most ruthless lawyers, a woman named Choi Myung-hee, meets with Han-seo. After the meeting, she tells her boss that she has a hard time believing this man is running Babel. Maybe it is a bit overstretched, but she believes that Han-seo could just be a puppet used by the person who is really running the evil company. Meanwhile, Yu-chan calls the scientist again to try to change his mind. Although he is close to achieving it, the man needs some time to think about it because his life is at stake. Elsewhere, Cha-young meets with Choi Myung-hee and things are tense between them. Both women are ferocious, and they want to prevail over one another. Later, Cha-young also meets with her father, who questions her moral compass. The two of them end up fighting about which end of the river they should be at, so Cha-young grabs a drink to deal with the stress. Around midnight, a policeman bangs on the scientist's door at the hotel he is staying in, claiming that there was a robbery taking place and he has to talk to the guests. The scientist figures out that this man is not a real policeman, so he jumps outside the room and runs to the docks. There, he tries to call Yu-chan, but the lawyer walks outside to smoke. Vincenzo sees the incoming call, and he knows very well who this man is, but he decides to silence the call because he is afraid the situation will get out of hand if this man testifies in court. Eventually, the Babel assassins find the man, and they kill him. When Yu-chan goes back inside, a truck drives right through the glass and hits Vincenzo and Yu-chan's lawyers. Yu-chan is dead, while Vincenzo manages to survive and is taken to the hospital. Cha-young visits him after her father's funeral, and Vincenzo suddenly wakes up. Not only is he awake, but he's also ready for action. Vincenzo assumes that Babel has something to do with Yu-chan's death, even though he has no evidence yet. A few days later, Cha-young is convinced that Babel is behind her father's death when she sees on the news that the head scientist working on some of Babel's drugs was washed up dead near the shore. Without wasting a second, she goes to Woo-song's boss and hands him her resignation. Choi Myung-hee is right there in the office and taunts her, saying that she cannot manage the pressure. As for Vincenzo, he returns to the murder scene and examines it more carefully. As he uncovers several details about the incident, he calls his friend Mr. Cho and asks him to make a move soon. Hanseo returns home and finds a bunch of syringes stuck on his pillow, a message sent to him by Vincenzo. The next day, Cha-young meets with the tenants at the Gyumga Plaza building and tells them that she is going to continue her father's work and stand by their side. Suddenly, two policemen appear and arrest her on some foolish accusations set up by Woo-song. When Vincenzo learns about this, he rushes to the police station and shows them who's boss. He asks the policemen if they have any proof of their accusations, and since they don't, he just takes Chae-young out of there. Just outside the police station, Jang Jun-woo presents himself to Vincenzo and tells him he is a huge fan. Even though this man seems sweet, he starts acting weirder as time goes by. Soon, Vincenzo prepares to make his next move and takes Cha-young to visit the man who was driving the truck that killed her father. Vincenzo wants to know who gave him the order, but the man acts tough initially. Vincenzo knows that he can't reason with a man like that, but also presents him with the facts he knows. He knows that somebody reduced his sentence to just 2 years, even though he was sentenced to more time due to the nature of his crimes, so there is no way this man is not associated with somebody with lots of power. Then Vincenzo uses his dark personality to convince the man, saying that he will find people in jail willing to kill him. The man cracks and gives them a name, but claims he never met this man in person. Vincenzo gets up to leave, but then decides to terminate the man indirectly by yelling and thanking him for agreeing to work with him and be his witness in court. A policeman hears this, and things are set in motion. That same night, a few inmates corner this man and kill him while a policeman just stands there. One day later, Vincenzo makes his next move, or, to state it another way, his next move finds him. Babel's rep tries to attack Vincenzo to get him out of his way, but ends up being choked by him. Then, Vincenzo uses the rep to set up a meeting with the man who gave the order to the truck driver. He attacks him and now has both of them in his grasp. Vincenzo grabs the man's pistol and comments that this gun is neither used by the military nor the police, which means these men have strong connections. Vincenzo wants to know who gave the order to kill Yu-chan, but the man doesn't want to speak. All of a sudden, Vincenzo proves he is serious and shoots the man. Vincenzo has tricked and trapped Choi Myung-hee in a laundry store. While he is on the phone with her, a truck turns its lights on her and drives toward her. Choi is afraid for her life, but the car stops as Vincenzo tells her that he knows she gave the order to kill Yu-chan because he was standing in their way on several fronts. Eventually, this battle is left unfinished as Vincenzo leaves and the truck drives away. One night later, a contamination team comes into Babel's lab, and their leader tells the scientists to evacuate the lab for a couple of hours because they need to work. After they are done, one of the team members is revealed to be Vincenzo, who lights a lighter and lets it hit the ground. The whole place is torched because Vincenzo didn't spray for cockroaches and viruses in the lab. He watered it with gasoline to destroy it. A short flashback shows us that everything was a setup. Vincenzo pretended to shoot Babel's rep, but the man was just pulled back by Yu-chan's old associate, who helps Vincenzo and Cha-young. The other tied-up man believes that Vincenzo killed the rep, so he reveals all the information the lawyers need. Back in the present, Hanseo arrives at the lab and starts screaming when he sees it on fire. Two of Vincenzo's team members amp the gas up and cause another explosion, which sends Hanseo flying backward. Suddenly, an expensive car appears, and the real owner of Babel steps out of it. This man is none other than Jang Jun-woo, who apparently pretends to be an intern lawyer while he is the boss of the most corrupt corporation in the country. With an angry look on his face, Vincenzo and his team flee. But these people are not just hired individuals. They are people who were represented by Hong Yu-chan. They decide to help Cha-young as a form of respect for what her father did for them. The next day, Vincenzo decides to meet Hanseo in person, but he has to do it in an indirect way. He hits the gym and helps Hanseo with his weights while he bench presses. While helping him with his exercise, Vincenzo pretends he is a fan of his and asks irrelevant questions, such as if he was inspired by George Soros. As a lawyer and a former member of the Mafia, Vincenzo is a good judge of character. When he meets with Cha-young again, he exclaims that Hanseo is not particularly clever, which makes him believe that he is not the real person running Babel. Vincenzo believes that their next target should be to look into the life of Director Gil, a man who is in charge of drug development. However, that has to wait because there is a new problem coming up. The victims suffering the side effects of Babel's medicine want to pull back on the case because an intermediary offered them large sums of money. Cha-young gathers them in her father's office and tries to change their minds, but the victims seem to believe that there is no chance of them winning the case. So their best option would be to accept the settlement money and move on. Elsewhere, Hanseo sets up an event with some reporters and congratulates the researchers who worked on a new medicine that is going to be in circulation soon. However, as he congratulates the researchers, one of them spits blood on him and collapses on the floor. In the meantime, the thugs visit a pizza restaurant in Gyeongga Plaza and pretend they just found a nail in their food. They take some pictures of the nail in the food to speak poorly of it on social media, but Vincenzo walks in and tells them to stop. The thugs, tired of Vincenzo getting involved, decide to attack him. Vincenzo, who is good with his hands, is able to beat them up. The leader of the thugs is the last of them standing, and Vincenzo asks the man to pay for his food. Trembling, the leader of the thugs pays the pizza chef and then runs outside. When Cha-young has a moment alone with Vincenzo, she asks him to use a move on her to see how much it hurts. She saw Vincenzo using this move on one of the thugs. Vincenzo moves his hand near her forehead, and the two of them grow closer, even under the circumstances. However, they are interrupted by Jang Jun-woo, who enters the office and opens an informal beef with Vincenzo. The two of them decide to resolve their differences by visiting a restaurant and seeing which one of them can eat the most spicy food. The next day, Vincenzo meets with the tenants again as one of them, who is a monk, finishes his long prayer and fasting period. Vincenzo tells them that he has everything set up for them. They will be able to move to a different building and live in some new apartments for free while he renovates Gyeongga Plaza. When he is finished, they will come back and live in their apartments. Only when they come back, their apartments will be much better. One by one, Vincenzo puts all matters into place. The next thing he has to take care of is the intermediary who tried to bribe Babel's victims. Vincenzo steals the man's hidden assets, as he has been embezzling money for a while, and donates it to a few non-profit organizations. Then, Vincenzo accompanies Cha-young to a confrontation against Choi Myung-hee and Woo-sung's boss. During the meeting, Choi hears Vincenzo's voice and recalls the voice of the man who was speaking to her on the phone that night when she was cornered in the laundry store. Could this be the same man? One day later, both parties meet outside the court. However, Vincenzo's real intention is not to go on trial against Woo-sung because he knows they are going to lose. Therefore, he has come up with another plan, and he has recruited the tenants of the plaza to protest just outside the court until the trial is canceled and moved to another. The next time the court is about to take place, Choi and her boss meet with the judge and ask him to make a decision in their favor. The judge proclaims that he might be able to help them, but he also asks Woo-sung's boss for a small donation in cash. When the trial starts, Cha-young pretends she is sick in order to buy herself some time. The tenants have sabotaged the building, and water starts flowing in from everywhere until the judge reschedules the trial. Later, Vincenzo walks around the building and uses a metal detector to find where the gold is located exactly. However, he has no idea that he is being followed by a goofy agent who suspects him of being a mafia member. Although the agent catches him in the act, the height of the window's design does not allow him to see the detector from his point of view. It seems like Vincenzo is kneeling down to pray. Elsewhere, Jang Jun-woo invites Choi Myung-hee and Woo-sung's boss to a meeting room to give them a presentation. He begins by saying that Babel's creator was Hanseo's father, but the current president was not his only son. He reveals that he is Hanseo's brother, and the person who is really running Babel. Woo-sung's boss and Choi are forced to clap for him, but the latter shows her anger later when she is left alone in her office. Jang Jun-woo shows everyone how ruthless he is. Cha-young and Vincenzo make a plan about the witness in court. In the next hearing, a new witness who will stand in front of the judge is no one other than Vincenzo Casano. When Vincenzo sets his new plan in motion, his people first beat one of the court rivals, and Director Gil injects him with drugs. Then they plant some money on all of the other medicine victims. Soon, all of them are taken to the police station, but Cha-young rushes there to defend them. The policemen tell her that these people have been working together and have been stealing money from Babel. Cha-young tries to tell them that they do not have any real evidence, but now it's her word against Woo-sung. Before the trial, Jang Jun-woo approaches Vincenzo and Cha-young to tell them that they can't go against Wusong because they are a big firm. He asks Cha Young to think about this again and not to get carried away by Vincenzo. Their meeting doesn't end on the best note, but they have to save their mean feelings for later. When it's time to go on trial again, Vincenzo and Cha Young know that the judge is not going to be on their side, so they have to do something about it. After Director Gill is called up as a witness, Cha Young calls Gill's wife as her witness. Apparently, his wife does not love him anymore and has agreed to reveal a secret that Director Gill uses drugs. With this revelation, Vincenzo asks the court not to take Gill's words seriously, and the judge is forced to comply because he can't go against decisions that are so obvious and would destroy his career. With that, Cha Young has bought herself and her clients more time. As they say, live to fight another day. Jang Jun-woo is very angry with these developments and yells at his brother, Han Seo. Han Seo asks him if he is going to kill him as he did with their father, and a flashback takes us back in time to show what happened when their father fell sick. Jang Jun-woo was the one who planned the murder of their father. He decided to kill him by having Director Gill inject him with drugs. Back in the present, Jang Jun-woo is surprised his brother knows about this because he thought he had no idea. He grabs a fork and threatens his brother with it if he ever speaks of this again. In the meantime, the tenants are having dinner before they move to their new apartments for a couple of months when a beggar asks them for a bite. The beggar starts telling them a crazy story. He claims that he lived on the streets a few years ago and watched silently as some men built this building. He saw, with his own eyes, those men carrying many plates of gold and hiding them under this very building. The tenants laugh at him because this story is too crazy to believe, but the beggar has proof. He says that the men who built this place were killed, but the beggar managed to get hold of the phone of one of those men. In fact, the beggar has that phone with him and shows them a picture of the worker holding a golden plate. The next morning, Vincenzo tells the tenants that it is time for them to move to their new apartments, just like they agreed. However, the tenants have changed their minds. Of course, they do not reveal their true reason for wanting to stay, but rather project that they care about this place and want to live here forever. In the meantime, Cha Young saw the news on the lawyer's forum that Choi Myung-hee wanted to make a deal with one of the popular chief prosecutors, but she eventually lost. However, Cha Young didn't know the reason behind her defeat. Cha Young talked to the residents of the building and said that Vincenzo Casano always fulfilled his promises. Now he is getting a plaza for the residents in Seongchidong, but they refused. Cha Young was arrested because of illegal disputes and for not following the Attorney at Law Act. However, she refused to go as she knew this was the planning of Choi Myung-hee, but Vincenzo did everything possible to take her out of this situation. He visited Choi Myung-hee to make a deal that would benefit both parties and take Cha Young out of jail. He talked to her and made a deal that he would speak to the prosecutor about Choi's deal and would make him agree for her, and in return, she would leave Cha Young. It was easy for him because of his influential Italian personality. He made his move, locked the deal with Choi Myung-hee, and helped Cha Young by taking her out of jail. Meanwhile, the residents of the building were making their own plans. The thugs of the Babel group were making their plans along with the residents of the building, but they didn't know what was going to happen. Choi Myung-hee had a meeting with a chief prosecutor, but it didn't go well because of their colleague Kim, who had an affair. They wanted her to take his case as well, but Choi Myung-hee didn't think she would do it. For the first time, Vincenzo told Cha Young about his Mafia past, and she had many questions about this part of his life. Jang Jun-woo eventually learned about the deal between Vincenzo and Choi Myung-hee. Choi Myung-hee became angry because she lost, even after making a deal with Vincenzo Casano. Jang Jun-woo is still a simple intern in front of Vincenzo and Cha Young, but he is present at a meeting with Choi Myung-hee and Cha Young, along with Vincenzo, discussing the money they want from the director of the Babel group. Meanwhile, thugs are trapped in a large freezer, freezing and asking for help. Choi Myung-hee talked to another ally in the banking field about future planning. In the meantime, Han Seo gathers his vice presidents from Babel at the hockey field and scolds them for their poor performance. It appears he mimics his brother's methods, ruling the company with an iron fist. After calling these men useless, he starts hitting them with hockey pucks, and they fall onto the icy ground. As for Vincenzo, he follows Cha Young, who is visiting Ms. O. The woman is not well, and a doctor reveals to them that she suffers from cancer. The doctors promise to do everything they can to keep her alive, but they cannot make any guarantees. Vincenzo is very sad to hear the news, as if this woman is important to him, but he doesn't want to tell Cha Young for now. Doctors believe Ms. O will get better only if she has the will to live. Elsewhere, Choi Myung-hee meets with a man named Min Seong, who is the president of a bank. She wants him to invest a large amount of money in Babel, but the banker does not want to do that because he thinks associating his bank with Babel will not be good for business. However, Choi Myung-hee presses him hard and talks about some evidence she has on him. Essentially, she blackmails him by threatening to reveal the truth to the public if he does not cooperate. The next day, Mr. Cho informs Vincenzo that the Chinese businessman used to own an art gallery with expensive exhibits. The gallery protected the entrance to the most valuable paintings with a security system based on iris recognition. Mr. Cho believes they can steal the data from that art gallery and use it to open the safe under Gumga Plaza. At the same time, Min Seong visits Ms. Oh in the hospital with the sole purpose of taunting her before she dies. The woman pretends she wants to tell him something and asks him to come closer, but she grabs him by his hair and gives him a hard time. Cha-young tries to pull him back but ends up destroying Min Seong's hair as well. Later, Cha-young tells Vincenzo that they need to get closer to this man and find out more information about him. According to rumors, she has heard that Min Seong is gay, and Vincenzo tries to seduce him. Vincenzo does not like this idea at all, but Cha-young and her father's former associate won't leave him alone until he accepts. Vincenzo gets into action the next day when he joins the same club as Min Seong for horse riding. Vincenzo starts a conversation, and the two of them discuss the art of writing. After managing to get Min Seong's number, Vincenzo tells Cha-young that he feels weird for doing this, but she convinces him to continue with their plan. Soon, Vincenzo goes to dinner with Min Seong and gets him drunk. When the conversation becomes more personal, Min Seong approaches Vincenzo to tell him about his deepest secret. As it turns out, Min Seong is the son of the man who was killed by Ms. Oh in the past. His father used to hit on the maids who worked in their house, but Ms. Oh fought back and pushed his father. The man got injured and died after a while. The thing is, both Min Seong and his mother witnessed the incident secretly. If they had called an ambulance, his father would be alive today, but they chose to kill him indirectly. The next day, the two of them go on another date at a fun fair, but Vincenzo breaks Min Seong's heart when he tells him that they can't be together. Min Seong has fallen in love with him and waits outside Vincenzo's office in order to see him. Vincenzo goes outside to meet him, but tells him that he has to do something for him if he wants them to be together. Blinded by love, Min Seong replies that he will do whatever is necessary. Soon, Babel sets up a press conference, and Han Seo is about to sign the contract for the bank's investment along with Min Seong. But when it's time for Min Seong to sign, he says that he is not going to do it because Babel is an unethical company. Han Seo is surprised and understands that Vincenzo has something to do with this when he sees him clapping with Cha-young. However, Min Seong's mother appears and states that she is going to sign the contract on the bank's behalf. She is the one in charge now. It's time for Choi Myung-hee to laugh, and a flashback shows us why. Choi Myung-hee had a meeting with Min Seong's mother and threatened her that her secret would be revealed if she did not help her out. Somehow, Choi Myung-hee knows everything about her husband, but Vincenzo is not done teaching Min Seong a lesson. The tenants help him by abducting Min Seong and throwing him in a room they have filled with smoke. Some of the other tenants make themselves look like zombies, scaring the hell out of Min Seong. When the tenants allow him to escape the room, Min Seong runs to Vincenzo's feet and asks for his protection. Not only is Min Seong publicly humiliated, but he is also arrested because Cha-young has convinced some of his former employees to testify against him about the violent behavior he exhibited at work. Han Seo is angry at Vincenzo and can't hold himself back, but Jang Jun-woo tells him to calm down. Cha-young also goes face-to-face with Choi Myung-hee, and both women seem determined to beat each other. As a bunch of reporters gather around them, Cha-young exclaims that she will bring Babel to the ground because it is a company that works like a cartel. Meanwhile, everyone at Gumga Plaza has gone crazy with the story about the gold, and they are searching for it. Apart from them, a few unknown thieves are also looking for the gold. Elsewhere, we see that director Gil has moved away from Seoul because he believes Jang Jun-woo will make a move against him. He knows that Jang Jun-woo will consider him a liability and will probably try to kill him. Gil has communicated with a judge named In, and the latter has arranged some protection for him. At Judge In's house, he arranges a dinner with some powerful people and asks them to be on his side because everyone will benefit. However, one of the men is angry at him because he is trying to bribe them. His attitude backfires as these men are intercepted and abducted down the road. Back at the plaza, the tenants find the thieves, and a fight breaks out between the two parties. At some point, Vincenzo also returns home and comes face to face with the thieves. This is an unfortunate event for the thieves because they get beaten up by him and are forced to flee the scene in humiliation. At the same time, Han Seo takes the men he abducted to a container. One of them is the chief of the Bureau of Investigation Against Organized Crime, and is more open to working with Babel. The other man is not so open, but regrets it when Jang Jun-woo walks into the container with a hockey stick and kills him. Woo-song's boss, Mr. Han, tells Jang Jun-woo that he has to be more careful, because killing people like that will get them in trouble. Jang Jun-woo, blinded by his controlling nature, tells everyone that he can do whatever he wants. Mr. Han and Han Seo are scared of him, but but Choi Myung-hee just smiles because she is crazy herself. After the incident at the plaza, Cha-young sleeps at Vincenzo's house. The next morning, the two of them watch the news and learn about the death of the man killed by Jang Jun-woo. They agree that their next move should be to uncover who is really running Babel. Later, Vincenzo makes another attempt to talk to one of the monks who uses the room sitting just above the safe. Although Vincenzo tries hard, the monk tells him that he can't leave the temple because he has dedicated his life to religion. Over the next couple of days, Cha-young and Vincenzo try to determine if there is anyone they can trust. Their best shot is to communicate with Judge In and see if he is willing to help them face Babel. When they meet with him, Judge In reveals that Director Gil is thinking of switching sides, but he can't give them more information right now. While Vincenzo and his group try to think of ways to hurt Babel, Jang Jun-woo has a video call with a high-ranking member of the Colombian cartel. He tells him that Korea will become a drug paradise and prompts him to invest in Babel. The next day, Vincenzo calls Judge In to ask about Gil's location. The judge replies that he can't reveal the location of a possible witness. However, Vincenzo tells him that he knows how to extract information from Gil and proclaims that maybe his methods will bring results. Judge In gives Vincenzo the director's location. Cha-young and Mr. Nam tag along with Vincenzo, and they go after Gil. They are able to find the former medical director of Babel, but there is one caveat. Babel has found him first, and Gil is dead. Choi Myung-hee and Jang Jun-woo are seen celebrating, but it appears that Director Gil is not going to be their last victim. One day later, the authorities find a van full of dead people. However, these are not just ordinary people. These are some of the individuals involved in an illegal battle against Babel. The scene is made to look like an accident. When Vincenzo and Cha-young visit the police station to express their opinion, they tell the officers that something fishy is going on. However, the policemen are on Babel's payroll, so they are not going to do anything about it. Vincenzo decides to follow the policemen and sees them entering a gambling club to collect money. The policemen then go to the roof to count the money, but Vincenzo catches them in the act and takes a picture of them. The policemen know they are screwed, so they try to attack and finish him. However, they only end up being beaten and tied to a chair. Vincenzo pushes them near the edge of a high building, while Cha-young also joins in to play her part. Vincenzo has no use for two policemen who can't do their job, but the officers give him their word that they are going to change. From now on, they promise to do their job properly. In the meantime, Mr. Han has gotten closer to Hanseo and tells him that he should be the one to run Babel. Those words play on Hanseo's hidden ambitions, and he starts thinking about being the real boss of Babel. The next morning, Vincenzo declares that they have to fight Babel just like the Mafia would do it. They will hurt them first and then destroy them. To begin with, they should start by humiliating the company. They recruit the plaza's tenants to set up a YouTube show speaking poorly of Babel. Then Vincenzo wants to terrorize his enemies. He begins by writing a big red C letter on Hanseo's wall. He then plays the same trick with the zombies he played earlier, and one of the supposed zombies writes the letter C on a window. Finally, he sends something that looks like a bomb to Hanseo. The man is afraid for his life, but the bomb proves to be just a sign with the letter C on it. When Jang Jun-woo and the rest of his people think about it, they realize that the letter C corresponds to Vincenzo's Italian surname, Cassano. Cha-young starts laughing when she realizes that Vincenzo has been a member of the Mafia and is playing Mafia rules against them. Jang Jun-woo wants to retaliate, so he sends a dangerous gang to terrorize the tenants at the plaza. Babel's old thug team feels terrible about being replaced by these guys, so they try to fight the gang. However, the thugs are overpowered and start running. These new guys are members of a notorious gang, but the tenants are not at the mercy of these men. One tenant, who works as a tailor, is revealed to have a fair share of combat experience, and he uses his scissors to defeat the whole gang. Meanwhile, Jang Jun-woo meets with Cha-young, pretending to have some valuable information for her, while a team of assassins is after Vincenzo. Mr. Nam calls Cha-young to tell her about it, and she rushes to find Vincenzo. Jang Jun-woo follows after her under the pretense of assisting her. While this happens, Vincenzo sets up the assassins and kills most of them. He allows one of them to live in order to interrogate him, but the assassin does not reveal what Vincenzo wants to know: the true identity of Babel's boss. Soon, Jang Jun-woo and Cha-young find Vincenzo, who has gotten hold of the assassin's phone. Vincenzo says it's time to find out who runs Babel and calls a contact on the assassin's phone. Jang Jun-woo starts feeling nervous as his phone vibrates within his jacket. Vincenzo even walks near him, but he is unable to hear Jang Jun-woo's phone vibrating. The next day, Vincenzo visits Ms. O at the hospital, where she tells him about her life's regrets. She reveals that she abandoned her child in the past because she had no financial resources to take care of her son. Vincenzo has always known that this woman was his real mother, which is why he has taken an interest in secretly caring for her. Later, two policemen enter the plaza and arrest Vincenzo because they have been informed he has ties to the Italian Mafia. They will not imprison him because they have no real evidence against him, but they are planning to kick him out of the country. Meanwhile, Hanseo grabs a meal with his brother and asks him to take full control of Babel. Jang Jun-woo is infuriated upon hearing those words, as he considers his brother an incompetent fool. He grabs a knife and threatens his brother, warning him never to suggest something like that again. Elsewhere, Agent An meets with his agency's chief and tells him they need Vincenzo. An has grown really fond of Vincenzo and convinces the chief that this man is an asset in their fight against organized crime. The chief gives him the green light, and Agent An intercepts the policeman after the judge. An interrogates Vincenzo and gains jurisdiction over him, enabling him to take Vincenzo with him. Once they are out of trouble, An proclaims that he wants to be a member of Vincenzo's team, but he also has 3 requests. The first 2 requests make some sense, while the third is simply asking Vincenzo for a hug. Soon, Vincenzo's old friend from the Mafia, named Luca, calls him to inform him that somebody is asking around for him. At the same time, Mr. Han meets with Hanseo again, secretly, and plays with his mind, telling him that he is worthy of running Babel. Hanseo knows his brother will never allow him to take control, and begins considering more drastic options. Vincenzo suspects something fishy is going on with Judge In, so he abducts him and forces him to play a game of Russian roulette with a pistol. Judge breaks under pressure and reveals what Vincenzo wants to know, that Jang Jun-woo is the man running Babel and has been working with him because Jang Jun-woo has connections in high places and can advance his career quickly. Right after, Vincenzo visits Jang Jun-woo in his apartment and threatens to kill him. Jang Jun-woo reveals how twisted he is by grabbing the gun and sticking it to his own forehead, daring Vincenzo to shoot. At that moment, the police break into the house and arrest Vincenzo, while Jang Jun-woo pretends to be the victim of the situation. A short legal battle begins between the 2 parties, as the judge tries to imprison Vincenzo on the charge of attempted murder. On the other hand, Cha Young manages to stop him from doing so, and Vincenzo is free to walk. Jang Jun-woo changes his mind and allows his brother to do some work on behalf of Babel, but that was only because Choi Myung-hee advised him to lay low for a little while. He spends some time away from the big city. Jang Jun-woo is drugged after drinking some water placed in his fridge by Vincenzo's associates. Vincenzo calls him to demonstrate how powerful and ruthless he is, claiming a win over the president of Babel. Jang Jun-woo is infuriated because he is supposed to have top-notch security. Later, Agent An gives Vincenzo some good news and reveals that his agency's chief is playing an undercover game with Jang Jun-woo, pretending to be on his side. This means that the chief will be able to provide them with valuable information if it emerges. But there is more. A former prime minister of the country had ordered the agency to create something called the guillotine file. This file contains the dirty laundry of the most famous politicians, scientists, artists, etc. If they could somehow find this file, they might be able to find a way to defeat Babel. Meanwhile, Hanseo follows his brother on a hunting expedition. When he sees Jang Jun-woo out in the open, he considers this a chance to deal with him. Hanseo tells his brother that there is an animal in close proximity and gets him into the spot he wants him. Then he aims his rifle and shoots Jang Jun-woo. Jang Jun-woo manages to get up after he is shot but stumbles and falls to the ground again. Hanseo prepares to finish him off, but another hunter ruins his plan by walking near them. Hanseo pretends everything was an accident and asks the man for help. Deep inside, he knows that he is screwed if his brother survives. When they arrive at the hospital, the doctors inform Hanseo that his brother's wound is not serious and that he is going to be fine. Hanseo pretends to be relieved to hear this, but in reality, he is afraid for his life. Choi Myung-hee is in the room with Jang Jun-woo, and they have a short discussion. Choi Myung-hee comments that everybody is making moves against Jang Jun-woo and prompts him to reveal his true identity to the public, letting everyone know that he is the real boss of Babel. In the meantime, Vincenzo meets with Mr. Cho and asks him why he tried to steal the gold. Mr. Cho is surprised, but Vincenzo has figured out that he was the one who sent the thieves to try to steal the gold. Mr. Cho admits that he did it, and confesses that he owes money to some dangerous people because he lost a couple of million while gambling. With the truth revealed, they agree to get the gold together. At the same time, Jang Jun-woo leaves the hospital to attend an event where some rich businessmen will bid to buy floors of the upcoming Babel Tower to use as offices. He reveals himself as the real boss of Babel and starts the bidding. Back at the plaza, Vincenzo sends the tenants on an excursion in order to buy himself time to get some of the gold. Mr. Cho uses a device that replicates the Chinese businessman's iris and opens the safe with it. The 2 men jump inside the room and are amazed at the amount of gold they find. All of a sudden, Mr. Cho pulls a gun on Vincenzo. He tells Vincenzo that he only needs 1 plate of gold to pay off his debts. The 2 of them climb back up, but Vincenzo manages to trick Mr. Cho, diverting his attention and kicking Mr. Cho's gun out of his hands. Vincenzo wins their little hand-to-hand battle and grabs the golden plate Mr. Cho took from the safe. Vincenzo reveals that the guillotine file is hidden inside this plate, which which is why Mr. Cho only wanted this specific one. Now, Mr. Cho reveals that he is a secret agent. He didn't steal the data for the businessman's eye from his art gallery, but rather poisoned the businessman. When the man fell dead, Mr. Cho scanned his eye with the device he used today. While the two of them converse, the bus carrying the tenants returns, and the two men rush to close the hatch. Before they do, they throw the golden plate and the device back into the hatch. Meanwhile, Hanseo goes through a brief moment of madness, fearing for his life because he doesn't know when his last night will come. However, his brother does not punish him, but instead offers him an expensive watch. Hanseo wonders about Jang Jun-woo's plan, but the CEO of Babel is very clear. He states that he is keeping his brother alive because somebody has to take the blame if things go sideways. The press has started loving Jang Jun-woo, but Vincenzo is working on another surprise for him. One night, Jang Jun-woo attends an event organized by his company to present a new line of cars Babel is preparing to produce. However, when the video starts playing, he is shocked to see two high-ranking company executives discussing killing some union members who were standing in their way. Adding to the humiliation, a bucket of pig blood is poured on Jang Jun-woo as Vincenzo and Cha-young stand up to applaud him. Hanseo notices this and flashes a smile, enjoying seeing his brother defeated. The police rush in and arrest Jang Jun-woo, but the result is the same as always. He is let go. Vincenzo and Cha-young expected this but are satisfied they are getting into his head nonetheless. Jang Jun-woo regains his footing after attending a meeting with the lawyers. Hanseo invites Mr. Han to a private talk and blames him for convincing him he could be the boss of Babel. Mr. Han turns the situation around, claiming he believed every word he said and thinks Hanseo will do much better compared to his brother. Hanseo is motivated by these words and asks Vincenzo to meet him. When they meet, Hanseo states that he loves seeing Vincenzo winning against his brother. He wants to help Vincenzo defeat his brother and then rule the company himself. Vincenzo is skeptical, but Hanseo claims that things will change once he becomes the decision-maker at Babel. He promises to run Babel as a totally legal company. Over the next couple of days, Vincenzo discovers that Babel uses other companies as a way to launder money. He also learns that one of the tenants, Ms. Cho, is a hacker who can help him steal some data. One of the companies used by Babel is an art gallery, so Vincenzo decides to visit it with Cha-young. As they do, some of the other tenants create a distraction, allowing the two lawyers to enter the manager's office. They use a flash drive given to them by the hacker and steal all the data from the computer. With that, they gain even more evidence to use against Babel. Jang Jun-woo learns about this incident and retaliates by hiring 3 new assassins to kill Vincenzo. The assassins corner him on the roof, but Vincenzo is miraculously saved by a horde of pigeons. Eventually, he kills the assassins and makes Jang Jun-woo even angrier. The war between the two parties continues as Vincenzo prepares to make his next move. Before that, he reveals to his team that he has the guillotine file in his possession. He had stolen it from inside the golden plate before throwing it back into the hatch. Using the file, they uncover rumors about a man named Jang B, the owner of a company about to sign a contract with Babel. According to the rumors, Jang B pushed his business partner off a cliff to become the sole owner of the company. Vincenzo spends some time learning valuable details about Jang B's story and pretends to be a medium who can communicate with the soul of his dead partner. Vincenzo supposedly delivers a message from the spirit and convinces Jang B not to sign the contract with Babel. Jang Jun-woo starts feeling angry because Babel's stock price is going down, and it seems like Vincenzo's war against him is hurting the company. The CEO of Babel comes up with a new idea to get rid of Vincenzo. He sends an assassin after him, but Vincenzo defends himself and chases the assassin. The assassin runs to the roof of a building. When Vincenzo follows him, a body drops from a height at the same time. The police are notified, and a few officers find Vincenzo with the dead body, assuming that he is the one who killed the man. However, Vincenzo beats the officers up and escapes. Meanwhile, the assassin tries to leave the building but stumbles upon Babel's former thugs. The thugs catch the assassin and take him to Vincenzo, who forces him to reveal the location of his associates. After beating them up, Vincenzo forces them to turn themselves in, clearing himself of any charges. Jang Jun-woo feels defeated once again, but he is not going to back down. While Vincenzo spends some time with his biological mother, Jang Jun-woo works on his next attack. He uses a woman who pretends to be a cleaning lady to install an explosive device inside the building. That night, the device is activated, and one of the gas pipes is cut. The tenants start evacuating the building, but they do not have much time because the woman has also left behind a bomb. Luckily, 2 firemen find the bomb disguised as a watch. Vincenzo sees them holding it and runs to grab the watch, tossing it out of the window just in time. Jang Jun-woo unleashes his fury on his brother until Choi Myung-hee walks into his office with a picture of Vincenzo's biological mother. Jang Jun-woo recognizes this as an opportunity and asks Choi Myung-hee to make their next move. Choi Myung-hee gets one of their men out of prison and entrusts him with the mission of killing Ms. Oh. The man enters the hospital at night, pretending to be a nurse. He manages to gain access to Ms. O's room and kills her. Jang Jun-woo and his allies celebrate, but Vincenzo has already started investigating the murder of his mother. Vincenzo reviews the hospital's security footage and identifies the killer. He tracks the man down and teaches him a brutal lesson. However, instead of killing him, Vincenzo keeps the man alive and tortures him, demanding to know who gave the order. Vincenzo allows the man to run to his boss if he wants to stay alive. The man leads Vincenzo directly to Jang Jun-woo's country house. The security guards try to stop Vincenzo, but he is dedicated to finishing his mission. Once he finds the others, he threatens them with his gun, fully loaded and ready to fire. Vincenzo shoots the killer dead, terrifying everyone. He fires bullets around his enemies and declares that they are going to die, but not today, and not with a bullet, because that would be too easy on them. First, he will steal what is theirs, and then he will kill them. Before leaving the house, Vincenzo demonstrates that he is serious by shooting Jang Jun-woo's ear. The next morning, Jang Jun-woo wakes up in a bad mood. He snaps at his brother, slapping him across the face, and yells at Choi Myung-hee, demanding that she come up with a solution to get rid of Vincenzo, who seems unbeatable. Soon, Jang Jun-woo repeats the event of selling office spaces at the upcoming Babel Tower. However, one of his former subordinates, who now works for Vincenzo, bursts into the event with a bomb strapped to his body, and another one hidden under a big cake. Vincenzo uses the room's speakers to address the attendees, who are now locked in the room. He tells them they need to stay away from Babel if they want to stay alive, prompting them to eat the contracts they signed at the event. One by one, the business people who purchased office spaces at the event start eating the papers they signed. Eventually, Vincenzo allows them to leave by unlocking the doors. Simultaneously, the supposed bomb explodes, but it turns out to be just water spraying around. In the meantime, Mr. Han has begun feeling scared and meets with a very wealthy real estate mogul to ask for his protection. All parties are now working against each other. Vincenzo gathers more information on Babel through the agency's chief, who attends private meetings with Jang Jun-woo and secretly records them. On the other hand, Jang Jun-woo has been working on his own plot. When Han Seo meets with Vincenzo again, things are awkward between the two of them, and they both pull guns on one another. However, they are interrupted by Interpol agents who are there to arrest Vincenzo. During the confrontation, Vincenzo is shot, and as the agents approach him to check on him, he suddenly jumps up and holds them at gunpoint. He takes everyone to a container where he kills a few of the agents and tells the remaining ones to go back to where they came from. In return for leaving him alone, he offers them enough evidence to make another arrest, his stepbrother, Paolo, in Italy. During this whole time, Vincenzo and Chae-young have been building a strong case against Babel. When reporters approach them, they boldly state that Babel is going down. The war between Vincenzo and Jang Jun-woo rages on, while Mr. Han becomes a district judge thanks to his powerful friends. When Vincenzo talks to him, he threatens him to find a reason to put Jang Jun-woo in jail for a couple of months, or else he will die. Vincenzo knows Jang Jun-woo will not stay in prison forever, but that is not his plan. He just wants to give Babel's president a difficult time while he is behind bars. After Jang Jun-woo is jailed, Vincenzo visits him to taunt him. However, Jang Jun-woo has a powerful ally of his own, a politician named Kim. Kim sends his men to attack Mr. Cho and learns about the gold at the plaza. One night, Kim brings his muscle and visits the plaza, but the tenants fight back, pushing Kim and his men away with help from Vincenzo. Meanwhile, the female hacker manages to open the hatch using her computer, and the tenants transfer all the gold away from the plaza. As for Kim, he wakes up near a dumpster with a terrible headache. After a while, it is time for the good guys to face Babel in court again, but no final decision is reached. Han Seo gets his hopes up and meets with Mr. Han to hear the words he loves, that he will be able to take over Babel if his brother goes down. But soon, Jang Jun-woo is out of jail and starts showing everyone how angry he is. First, he attacks and abducts Chae-young, then he enters his brother's office and holds him at gunpoint. However, he does not kill him, but rather strikes him. When Han Seo wakes up, he finds himself in the same room as Chae-young. Of course, neither of them is surprised because they know what kind of person Jang Jun-woo is. Vincenzo proceeds to find them, but his hands are tied because Jang Jun-woo has his gun pointed at Chae-young's face. Suddenly, Han Seo attacks his brother, and chaos ensues. When Jang Jun-woo tries to shoot Vincenzo, Chae-young is the one who takes the hit. Han Seo tries to stop his brother once more, but Jang Jun-woo is ruthless and shoots him. Then, as Jang Jun-woo sees Vincenzo holding Chae-young in his arms, he has the perfect shot lined up. He pulls the trigger, but his gun is empty. Realizing he is screwed, Jang Jun-woo decides to run away. Chae-young is stable, but when Vincenzo checks on Hanseo, the latter dies in his arms. The next morning, Chae-young wakes up in a hospital and is told she will be fine. Later, Vincenzo meets with Agent An and gives him the guillotine file, trusting him to do the right thing with it. The only thing left for Vincenzo to do now is to kill his enemies. He starts by killing Mr. Han, and then waits for Choi Myung-hee in her room as she tries to escape. After torturing her, he pours petroleum on her and burns her alive. Finally, a mixed group of tenants and ex-Babel thugs intercept Jang Jun-woo. Some shots are exchanged, but Vincenzo joins the scene and shoots Jang Jun-woo twice in the legs. Then he puts Jang Jun-woo in his car and drives away before the police can find him. When Jang Jun-woo wakes up, he's tied to a chair with a drilling machine positioned near his chest. After the two of them exchange some final words, Vincenzo programs the machine to drill into Jang Jun-woo's body and walks away, leaving him to die a slow, painful death. Afterward, Vincenzo meets with Agent An and Mr. Cho, who give him a passport and bid him farewell. Before he leaves the country, Cha-young appears to say goodbye, wishing they had more time together in the future. Gradually, everything falls into place as Cha-young sends all the bad guys to jail. A few months later, Cha-young's law firm has become one of the most trusted firms in the country. Vincenzo visits Cha-young to congratulate her on her accomplishments, and the two of them share their first kiss. Although Vincenzo has to leave, everything remains open for them, and they might see each other again. And with this, drama ends.